I was living what I thought was the American dream. Good job as a construction project manager, beautiful wife Amanda, who was a successful lawyer, and a smart 16-year-old daughter Sophia, who made me proud every day. That dream shattered when I came home early on our anniversary, flowers in hand, only to find Amanda in our bed with Richard, her law firm colleague. The pain was unbearable, but nothing compared to when Sophia looked me in the eyes and said, "No wonder Mom found someone better. You are nothing but a loser, Dad." If you are watching this right now, drop a comment letting me know where you are tuning in from. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have ever felt betrayed by someone you loved. Trust me, what happens next in this story might surprise you. The life I had built over 15 years felt perfect from the outside. I worked hard at Seattle's largest construction firm, climbing my way up to managing major commercial projects across the Pacific Northwest. The hours were long, but the pay was good enough to provide a comfortable life in our suburban 3-bedroom house with the white picket fence Amanda had always wanted. Amanda was a rising star at her law firm, specializing in corporate litigation. We met in college when I was studying engineering, and she was preparing for law school. Back then, she admired my reliability and work ethic. "You are going to build us a solid foundation," she used to say. Sophia was our miracle. After 3 years of trying and watching her grow into a confident, intelligent teenager had been my greatest joy. I had turned down 2 promotions that would have required relocation because Amanda was building her career locally and Sophia was thriving in her school. I never complained about being the one who left work early for school events or stayed home when Sophia was sick. Family came first for me, always. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. Amanda started working later, attending more client dinners and weekend case preparation sessions. When home, she was distant, constantly checking her phone with a smile that never extended to our conversations. Sophia began mimicking her mother's behavior, rolling her eyes when I talked about my workday, making comments about how her friend's dad drove a better car or took fancier vacations. "Dad, why can you not dress better when you pick me up from school?" Jessica's dad wears suits and drives a BMW, Sophia once complained. I laughed it off, explaining that construction managers rarely wore suits to work sites. I did not realize then that the comparison was just beginning. Our 15th anniversary fell on a Tuesday. I had planned everything carefully, asking my boss for a rare early leave. I stopped by the florist for Amanda's favorite lilies and picked up the small blue Tiffany box containing the diamond earrings I had been saving for over 6 months. The spring weather was perfect as I drove home, windows down, imagining the surprise on Amanda's face when I showed up hours before my usual time. Our driveway had an unfamiliar black Audi parked in it. Probably a client meeting, I thought, though. Amanda typically conducted those at her office. I entered quietly, thinking I might wait in the kitchen until her meeting ended before surprising her. The house was silent except for sounds coming from upstairs. Our bedroom door was partially open, and what I heard made my blood freeze. Amanda's laugh, the one I had not heard directed at me in months, followed by a deep male voice. Time seemed to stop as I stood in the doorway of our bedroom. Amanda, my wife of 15 years, was in our bed with a man I recognized from her firm's holiday party, Richard Dalton, younger than me by several years, heir to a banking fortune, who practiced law for the intellectual challenge, as he had condescendingly explained to me over champagne last Christmas. They did not notice me immediately. I stood paralyzed, the lilies dangling from my hand, the small blue box burning a hole in my pocket. When Amanda finally saw me, her expression shifted not to shame but annoyance at the interruption. "Cody," she said, pulling the sheet up, "you are supposed to be at work." As if I was the one who had done something wrong. Richard had the decency to look uncomfortable as he gathered his clothes, but not enough to avoid giving me a smug once-over as he dressed. "I will call you later," he told Amanda, as if I was not even there, before brushing past me in the hallway. I could not speak. 15 years of marriage, countless sacrifices, all the nights I had spent reassuring her about cases, all the mornings I had gotten up early to make her favorite breakfast before big court days, all reduced to nothing by what I was seeing. How long? I finally managed to ask, my voice barely recognizable. "Does it matter?" Amanda replied, getting up and putting on her robe. 8 months, if you must know. 8 months, I repeated, unable to process the timeline. Since Thanksgiving, when I was working overtime to pay for Sophia's summer program. "This is exactly the problem, Cody," Amanda said, with an exasperated sigh. "Always the martyr. Always the one sacrificing. It gets old. It gets boring." She walked to her vanity, checking her makeup as if we were having a casual conversation. Richard is exciting. He has ambition that extends beyond the next construction project. He takes risks. I was building security for us, I said, feeling a pressure in my chest that made it hard to breathe. For our family. I do not need your kind of security, she replied coldly. I make enough money on my own. What I need is passion, excitement, someone who can match my energy. The front door slammed downstairs and I heard Sophia's voice calling out. I had forgotten she had early dismissal that day. My daughter appeared in the doorway, looking between us with confusion that quickly hardened when she saw her mother's tear-streaked face. What did you do? She immediately asked me, moving to Amanda's side. Your father came home early and created a scene, Amanda said before I could speak. He found out about Richard and is acting like the victim. I stared in disbelief. Created a scene? I found you in our bed with another man on our anniversary. Oh God, not the anniversary guilt trip, Amanda groaned. Another example of how suffocating you can be, Cody. I am entitled to happiness. Sophia looked at me with new eyes, cold and judging. Mom has been unhappy for ages, Dad. Everyone could see it except you. That night, as Amanda packed a bag to stay with a friend, Sophia and I sat through the most painful dinner of my life. She picked at her food, occasionally glancing at me with an expression I had never seen from her before. Contempt. Richard drives a Porsche, she finally said. He went to Harvard and has an apartment in New York. His family has a foundation that donates millions to charity. Material things are not what make a person worthy, Sophia, I said quietly. She laughed, a harsh sound that reminded me too much of her mother. That is what people who do not have nice things always say. No wonder Mom found someone better. She pushed her plate away and stood up. You are nothing but a loser, Dad. A boring, predictable loser who could not even keep Mom interested. Her words cut deeper than finding Amanda with Richard. My own daughter, the person I loved most in the world, looking at me with such disdain. I sat alone at the dinner table, long after she went to her room. The uneaten anniversary dinner growing cold, wondering how my life had collapsed so completely in a single afternoon. The divorce was a calculated dismantling of everything I had built. Amanda hired Gregory Thompson, the most aggressive divorce attorney in Seattle, known for leaving the financially weaker spouse with barely enough to survive. Despite 15 years of contributing to our household, my construction manager's salary was no match for Amanda's partner-track income when it came to legal firepower. During the proceedings, Richard was a constant presence, sitting behind Amanda in court, his hand possessively on her shoulder. Sophia attended some sessions, always sitting on her mother's side, refusing to even meet my eyes across the courtroom. I lost the house we had spent years making into a home. The judge awarded Amanda primary custody of Sophia, despite her being 16 and capable of making her own decisions. That decision became moot when Sophia announced she wanted nothing to do with me anyway. The court-mandated weekend visitations became a joke when Sophia simply refused to come to my new apartment. She is old enough to decide, Amanda said smugly when I called about the third missed weekend. I cannot force her into your car. My new home was a one-bedroom apartment in a building that had seen better days, in a neighborhood that made me double-check my car locks. The walls were thin enough that I could hear my neighbors arguing at night, which somehow made my silent rooms feel even more lonely. With the hefty child support and alimony payments, I could barely afford the rent. I started bringing leftover food from work lunches home for dinner. My coworkers noticed the change in me, the weight loss, the dark circles under my eyes. They stopped inviting me to after-work gatherings, uncomfortable with the visible evidence of how quickly a life could unravel. My boss called me into his office 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized. Your productivity is down 40%, Cody, he said, not unkindly. The Westlake project is behind schedule, and 2 clients have asked for different project managers. I need to know if you can turn this around, or if we need to make changes. I promised improvement, but my heart was not in it. Each morning, it took monumental effort just to get out of bed. I would sit in my car before work, trying to summon the energy to walk into the building, to face another day of meaningless tasks, when everything that had given my life purpose was gone. Nights were worse. I would call Sophia, leaving voicemail after voicemail that went unanswered. I scrolled through photos on my phone, watching the progression of my daughter from a gap-toothed first grader to the beautiful teenager who now looked at me with hatred. I drank too much cheap whiskey, not even enjoying the taste, just needing the temporary numbness it provided. One particularly dark night, 6 months after Amanda left, I found myself sitting on my bathroom floor, an empty bottle beside me, staring at a handful of sleeping pills I had been prescribed but rarely took. I wondered how many it would take to just not wake up to end the constant ache that had become my life. The thought of Sophia finding out her father had given up kept the pills in my palm rather than my throat, but it was a close call. The next morning, hungover and ashamed, I bumped into my neighbor Frank while getting my mail. Frank was in his 70s, a Vietnam veteran with a perpetual tan and more energy than men half his age. He took one look at me and invited himself into my apartment. "You look like 3 miles of bad road, son," he said, bluntly surveying the unwashed dishes and empty takeout containers that had become my decorating scheme. "This situation has gone on long enough." I was too tired to even be embarrassed. My wife cheated, my daughter hates me, and I am one poor performance review away from unemployment. I am allowed to have a bad day. This looks like a bad season," Frank replied. "And believe me, I know something about bad seasons. Lost my wife of 24 years to my best friend back in '87. Thought my life was over." Something about his matter-of-fact tone made me really look at him. "What did you do?" "First, I did exactly what you are doing. Drank too much, nearly lost my job, felt sorry for myself." He picked up an empty whiskey bottle and tossed it in the trash. "Then, one morning I realized something important. I was not getting back at them by destroying myself. I was just proving them right." His words hit me like a bucket of cold water. Was I proving Amanda right, showing Sophia that her father really was a loser, who could not function without her mother? The best revenge is not getting even. Frank continued opening my curtains to let in the first sunlight my apartment had seen in weeks. "It is getting better. Start with something small today. Take a shower. Throw out this trash. Tomorrow, maybe go for a run. Build from there." That conversation was my turning point. I did start small first by cleaning my apartment from top to bottom, throwing away the reminders of my lowest moments. I found a photo of Amanda and me on our wedding day and allowed myself one last long look before placing it in a box with other mementos that I stored in the back of my closet. Not destroyed, but no longer part of my daily life. I started running just a mile at first, my lungs burning with the effort after months of inactivity. I joined a gym, working out before work, the physical exertion helping me sleep without alcohol for the first time in months. I joined a support group for divorced men, skeptical at first, but finding unexpected comfort in the stories of others who had rebuilt their lives. One of the guys in the group, Marcus, worked in professional development and recommended an advanced project management certification that was highly valued in our industry. I enrolled in night classes, my brain gratefully engaging with something other than my personal problems. Studying gave purpose to my evenings and a goal to work toward. At work, I volunteered for a challenging project that no one else wanted, a retrofit of an historic building with structural issues that had already driven away 2 project managers. I worked 14-hour days drawing up alternative plans, negotiating with contractors, finding creative solutions to problems that had seemed insurmountable. When we brought the project in under budget and ahead of schedule, my boss took notice. "Whatever you have been doing these past few months, keep it up," he said, authorizing a performance bonus that helped ease my financial strain. "You are back to being the Cody we hired, maybe even better." The newfound confidence spilled into other areas of my life. I made friends outside of work for the first time in years, joining a local book club, where I met people who knew nothing about my past and accepted me as I was in the present. I started taking cooking classes, discovering a talent for creating meals that nourished both body and soul. 11 months after Amanda left, an opportunity appeared that would once have terrified me. Brayburn Construction, our main competitor, was looking for a regional director of operations, a significant step up from my current position. The job required confidence, leadership skills, and a willingness to make tough decisions under pressure, all qualities I had been developing through my ordeal. The interview process was grueling, 5 rounds over 3 weeks, including a presentation to the executive team about how I would improve their project delivery system. A year earlier, I would have played it safe, suggested minor tweaks to their existing process. The new Cody presented a bold overhaul that would require initial investment, but promised substantial long-term savings. "That is either brilliantly innovative or completely insane," said the CEO after my presentation. "Either way, it shows the kind of thinking we need around here." I got the job with a salary more than double what I had been making. Within a month, I was able to move out of my depressing apartment into a modern house in a neighborhood, even nicer than where I had lived with Amanda. It had an extra bedroom that I decorated as. Sophia's still hoping she might someday want to visit, but no longer putting my life on hold waiting for reconciliation. The first sign of Amanda and Richard's downfall came through industry gossip. A former colleague mentioned casually over lunch that Richard's law firm was under investigation for financial improprieties. Cooking the books for some shady clients, he explained. Richard Dalton's name keeps coming up. Apparently he was the partner handling those accounts. I felt no satisfaction at the news, just a vague sense of karmic justice. I had moved on, focusing on my new role, which kept me busy enough that I rarely thought about Amanda and Richard anymore. Sophia still occupied my thoughts daily, but I had stopped leaving unanswered voicemails instead, sending monthly texts, letting her know I was there when she was ready. 3 weeks later, the story broke wide open. Richard's firm had been falsifying billing records and misusing client funds for years. Richard, as managing partner for their largest clients, was directly implicated. The scandal made the front page of the Seattle Times, complete with a photo of Richard being escorted from the building. I was having coffee at my favorite shop near the new Braeburn offices when I glanced up and froze. Sophia was behind the counter wearing the cafe's uniform, taking orders from the morning rush. She had not seen me yet, and I took a moment to really look at her. She seemed thinner, her confident posture replaced by a slight stoop. Her hair, which Amanda had always insisted be perfectly styled, was pulled back in a simple ponytail. When she finally noticed me, her eyes widened and she dropped the cup she was holding. I expected her to ignore me, or possibly ask me to leave. Instead, after cleaning up the spill, she approached my table. "Dad," she said, her voice smaller than I remembered. "Hello, Sophia," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral despite my pounding heart. "I did not know you worked here." She glanced around nervously. "For about a month now. We needed the money." The implication hung in the air between us. "Is everything okay?" I asked carefully. Her eyes filled with tears that she quickly blinked away. "Not really. Richard is in a lot of trouble. He moved out a while ago. The firm fired Mom because of her connection to him. We had to leave the house last month." The news should have felt vindicating, but seeing my daughter in distress overrode any sense of satisfaction. "I am sorry to hear that, Sophia." She gave a bitter laugh. "Are you? After how we treated you, you are my daughter. I never stopped caring about what happens to you." Her manager called her back to work, and she hesitated. "My shift ends at 3, if you wanted to talk." I returned at 3, half expecting her to have changed her mind, but she was waiting outside, looking both older and younger than her 17 years. We walked to a nearby park, sitting on a bench in awkward silence before she finally spoke. "Everything fell apart so fast," she said. "One day, Richard was taking us to fancy restaurants and talking about buying a vacation home in the Hamptons, and the next he was on the news being called a criminal. He left without even saying goodbye. Just packed his things while Mom was at work." "That must have been hard," I said, genuinely sympathetic. "Mom had to sell almost everything to pay lawyers. We are staying in this tiny apartment in Rainier Valley now. It does not feel safe there." She looked down at her hands. "I had to drop out of the tennis team because we could not afford the fees. College next year seems impossible now." We talked for over an hour, Sophia gradually opening up about the reality of her life since Richard's disgrace. Amanda was struggling to find work, her reputation tarnished by her association with Richard. They were behind on rent, utilities, had been shut off twice, and Sophia's private school had asked her to leave when tuition went unpaid. As we parted, she hesitated before asking, "Could I maybe see your new place sometime?" Anytime, I told her, trying not to show how much the question meant to me. "There is a room there for you whenever you want it." 2 days later, my phone rang with Amanda's name on the screen. I had not spoken to her since finalizing the divorce over a year ago. "Cody," she said, her voice strained in a way I had never heard before. "I would not call if it was not an emergency." 20 minutes later, I was driving to an address in one of Seattle's most run-down neighborhoods. The apartment building had broken windows, graffiti on the walls, and a group of men drinking on the front steps who eyed my car with obvious interest. Amanda was waiting inside the dingy lobby. The immaculately groomed woman who had dominated our divorce proceedings was gone, replaced by someone with unwashed hair, wearing clothes that looked slept in. When she saw me, her expression showed a mixture of relief and shame. "Thank you for coming," she said, leading me to a small apartment on the third floor. The space was barely furnished, just a mattress on the floor, a table with mismatched chairs and a single lamp. Sophia sat huddled on the mattress, looking up hopefully when I entered. "We got an eviction notice," Amanda explained, handing me a piece of paper. "We have 3 days to come up with the back rent or we are out. I have interviews next week, but nothing that will pay in time." "Why call me now?" I asked, looking around at the depressing space. "You have been in trouble for months," according to Sophia. Amanda sank into a chair, suddenly looking every minute of her 42 years. "Pride," she admitted. "Stupid, stubborn pride. I kept thinking Richard would come through, or I would get a job, or something would work out." She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed. "I was wrong about so many things, Cody. About Richard, about you, about what matters in life." "Mom has been crying for days," Sophia added quietly. "She thinks we will end up in a shelter." I walked to the window, looking out at the street below, where a police car had now stopped beside the men on the steps. A year ago, I might have felt vindicated by their fall from grace. Now I just felt sad for the pain my daughter had endured. "I can help with the rent," I said, turning back to them. "And I can find you a better place to stay temporarily." Hope bloomed on both their faces, quickly followed by confusion when I added, "But I need to be clear about something. This is not us getting back together, Amanda. That chapter of our lives is closed." "I understand," she said quickly, though disappointment flickered across her face. "I would not expect that after how I treated you. I just need help getting back on my feet, for Sophia's sake." I nodded. "I will always be there for Sophia. And I will help you too, because no matter what happened between us, I would not wish this situation on anyone." As I drove home that night, I reflected on the strange turn my life had taken. A year ago, I had been at my lowest, believing Amanda and Richard had won, that I had lost everything of value. Now I was in a position to help the very people who had cast me aside. The irony was not lost on me, but neither was the growth it represented in my own journey. The small 2-bedroom apartment I found for Amanda and Sophia was in a safe neighborhood with good public transportation access. I paid 3 months' rent in advance, giving Amanda time to find steady employment without the immediate pressure of homelessness. It was not charity as much as it was ensuring my daughter's well-being, though Amanda's tearful gratitude suggested she saw it differently. "You have every right to hate me," she said, as I helped them move their meager belongings into the new place. "Hate takes too much energy," I replied honestly. "I have better uses for my time now." Sophia moved between her mother's apartment and my house, slowly rebuilding our relationship. Our first conversations were awkward, weighted with the memory of her harsh words. But gradually we found our way back to something real. She was different now, more thoughtful, less materialistic. The hardships of the past year had matured her in ways that both saddened and impressed me. "I applied to State University," she told me one evening as we cooked dinner together in my kitchen. "Not Stanford or Yale like I always planned, but they have a good psychology program. I think I want to help people who are going through difficult times." "I think you would be excellent at that," I said, recognizing how her own experiences had shaped this new direction. "I am sorry I called you a loser," she said suddenly, putting down the knife she had been using to chop vegetables. "You are the opposite of that. You did not give up on yourself, even when we gave up on you." I pulled her into a hug, feeling the tension release from her shoulders as she cried against my chest. It was a moment of healing for both of us, though I knew our relationship would never be exactly as it was before. Perhaps it could be something better, built on mutual respect rather than obligation. Amanda eventually found work at a small legal practice, making less than half her previous salary, but enough to support herself. She invited me to coffee one afternoon, dressed in her old professional style, though without the designer labels. "I want to apologize properly," she said after we sat down. "Not just for the affair, but for trying to destroy you in the divorce. For encouraging Sophia to turn against you. For being vindictive when you had done nothing to deserve it." I studied her face, the face I had once known better than my own. "What do you want from me, Amanda?" She looked startled by the directness of the question. "Nothing. Well, not nothing. Forgiveness, maybe. And..." She hesitated. "I have been wondering if we could try again. Not immediately, but someday. We had 15 good years before I ruined everything." "No," I said gently but firmly. "We cannot go back. Too much has happened, and more importantly, we have both changed. I have changed." "You seem happier now than you ever were with me," she observed, a sad smile on her face. "I am not happier because you are gone," I clarified. I am happier because I finally understand my own worth. I am building a life based on self-respect, not on seeking approval from others." As if to underscore my point, my phone buzzed with a text from Julia, the architect I had been dating for 2 months. We had met through work bonding over our shared love of innovative design and our experiences as parents navigating complicated family dynamics. Her 10-year-old son David reminded me of myself at that age, earnest and curious. Our relationship was unlike anything I had experienced before, built on mutual respect and clear communication. Julia appreciated my reliability but never took it for granted. She was independent but not distant, successful but not competitive. We moved slowly, both carrying the wisdom earned through past heartbreaks. "You deserve that happiness," Amanda said, noticing the smile the text had brought to my face. "I understand now what you tried to give our family, and I was too blind to see its value." I left that meeting with a sense of closure. Amanda's apology could not undo the pain of the past, but it allowed me to release the last lingering questions about what I might have done differently, what flaws in me might have driven her away. Sophia continued to divide her time between households, our Sunday brunches becoming a cherished ritual. She watched with interest as my relationship with Julia developed, offering her approval in small ways. "She looks at you like you matter," she observed after meeting Julia for the first time. "Mom never looked at you that way." The wisdom in her observation surprised me. "When did you get so insightful?" she shrugged. "When everything fell apart, I had to really look at people, not just what they have or what they can give me, but who they really are." She paused, adding quietly, "I am trying to see people the way you always have, Dad." It was perhaps the most meaningful compliment I had ever received. On the 1-year anniversary of my promotion at Brayburn, I received a performance review that included a substantial bonus and equity in the company. That same week, I authorized the final payment for Sophia's first-year tuition at State University. The timing felt significant, a marker of how completely my life had transformed from my darkest moment. I sometimes drive past our old house, now occupied by a young family with tricycles in the driveway. I feel no desire to return to that life, to be the man I was then, constantly seeking validation through sacrifice, mistaking self-erasure for love. The true measure of my growth is not in the material improvements to my life, substantial though they are. It is in the knowledge that my worth comes from within, not from another's assessment. It is in understanding that love should enhance your sense of self, not diminish it. Sophia asked me recently if I regret the years with Amanda, given how things ended. Never, I told her truthfully. Those years gave me you. They taught me who I am and who I want to be. Every experience, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones, shaped who I am today. Life rarely follows the paths we imagine for ourselves. Sometimes its greatest gifts come disguised as our worst disasters. My journey from betrayal to begging to beyond has taught me that true strength is not found in never falling, but in how we rise after the fall. And in that rising, we often discover a better version of ourselves than we ever knew existed. What painful experience ended up making you stronger in the end? Share your story in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and redemption. Share with someone who might need to hear that their current pain can lead to future growth. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your worst day might just be the beginning of your best chapter.